All right, so this is a response video to why can't you have a dryer under communism? Um, this is going to be more nitpicky, but I figure, I'm going to bring it up. Why not? So this person is a Trotskyist, and of course has challenged the notion that Trotskyists were the ones that became neoconservatives, excuse me, and has done other videos and whatnot, which I do find interesting to a point. Um, this one's going to be more nitpicky of me, but why not? It's content, so why not?
What if someone wanted to replace a piece of technology that ran on solar and required no heavy metals or anything else that solar panels require, and they were going to replace it with something that burns fossil fuels, lowers indoor air quality, and starts house fires? And not only
Hmm.
that, they call it more advanced.
Hmm.
It would sound pretty silly, I would hope, but because
Hmm.
capitalism has trained us to associate shiny metal and electronics with advance, and that it's inherently good, we have a tendency to view a perfectly passive solution like a clothesline as some weird primitive thing. But what makes it less advanced? Is it because it's not made out of stainless steel or lacks wires? I think this is a consequence of thinking of technology as some linear tree that just gets better in a video game like Civilization. Rather, you think of technology as a set of tools and things that we produce over time that often have different trade offs and might fit specific use cases better, but rarely is better in all ways.
Okay, I don't have too much to argue with this. To be honest with you, at least this beginning part. So yeah, um, I know what this person is trying to say. Yeah, why would you want to simply get rid of the clothes dryer? Because of its inefficiency. Because yeah, it does use electric heat. Generally speaking, I'm not sure about gas heat. I mean, there probably are gas heat. Anyway, okay, so the thing is, there's this. Here's the basic argument right here that I think this person is leaving out. If you get rid of the clothes dryer, okay, you can say they're inefficient, they cause house fires, the exhaust is dumped outside. The production of the little I'm trying to think, the the bounce sheets and all that stuff, the dryer sheets, production of those, and the everything else that comes with that. Okay, I'm not against that idea. The thing is, though, is that the whole idea is that if you're going to get rid of the clothes dryer, you also have to get rid of the washer. Okay, to me, the washer dryer, like I say, you cannot get rid of one without the other. So you're going to keep a washer and the production of all these weird goopy chemicals. We don't even know what's fully in, some, these magical, you know, uh, things that have all these we don't even know what the hell's in them, right? So, okay, so are you going to go back to using soap? Or are you going to use something primitive and use a washboard to clean clothes off with and then dry them in the sun? Okay, like I say, I'm with you on that. But the thing is, though, you're going to have to. This is going to take a long time to bring people back to the society. So let's hear more of this.
We need to quit thinking of technology as something that just advances and advancement is better, but as a set of
Okay.
tools that we improve over time that have trade offs for different use cases.
Okay.
And that should never be used just for technology's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I go on a huge rant alone about how I see that used in the tech sector, but
Yeah.
that's not what I want to focus on. I want to talk about how the view of technology and advancement hampers how we deal with climate change and environmental damage.
Okay.
I'll be doing this through the focusing on clothes dryers, though this applies to any technology and not just clothes dryers. And an even worse example I recently saw on Twitter, which is a digital pregnancy test, which has processors faster than some of the first home computers. That's literally just an analog test strip. It just reads the analog test strip, and it uses all this technology at this massive waste of resources and human labor hours and money of the person purchasing it.
Okay. Number one, this is not me defending, because yeah, this is hugely inefficient. You are correct on that. but I doubt that humans are making this stuff. I doubt it. Maybe they're making some of this stuff, but overall, I'm sure that this is who the hell knows. But it's like, okay. Also, where are these folks going to go?
And I also really just hate clothes dryers.
Okay.
Think of all the hours of human labor that has to be wasted producing every component of a dryer, to assemble the dryer, and to ship the dryer. And now we're putting computers in the thing so that they can be hacked. And they have to be replaced when the company quits updating the firmware, and that makes them significantly less repairable, meaning someone, rather than repairing a dryer, it has
The thing is, though, this opens a Pandora's box. Okay. So you feel that way about clothes dryers. All right. Do you also feel that way about flat screen TVs? Do you feel that way about new cars? Do you feel that way about, like I say, that this opens the Pandora's box of I just don't like clothes dryers the way they are. It's like, okay, why don't you also talk about the washer? Like I said, that's the basic argument of, okay, you spend all this time talking about the washer. I mean, talking about the dryer. What about the washer? I'm not against what this person is saying, but it's like, all right, I mean, but you're gonna find a way to say, well, actually, Pentylin Cola is bad though, because this is kind of like Pentylin Cola sort of territory, in my opinion.
go through a whole process of manufacturing, wasting even more human labor time.
Mm,
They also increase emissions from heating and cooling your house, as most require venting to the outside.
you
So that
know,
means cold or hot air gets drawn into the house. As well as running it adds heat to your house. This on top of the energy consumption of the motors driving it, as well as the energy to heat it. They also cause a significant amount of number of house fires as well. And they cause more damage to clothing than a clothes line, and they require being replaced and repaired more often. Whenever I talk about this, people argue clotheslines don't work in winter or cold climates, and, well, they do. I grew up using one. I promise you, they do.
okay. I understand that this is supposed to be kind of just a fun video to a point, but it's like, okay, so trust me, bro, on the clothesline. All right, I mean trust me, they do. Okay, did you wash your clothes on a washboard too? That's never mentioned. I don't like I say. I'm gonna. This is pretty much the point of the video. So if you want to cut it here, that's fine. But it's like, okay, if you're gonna get rid of the dryer, fine, but you got to get rid of the washer too, because the same problems that occur with that work with that too. That's kind of how it works. I mean, like I said, this is the yin and yang of things. It's like, okay, so you don't do it that way. All right, then you do it this way. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I'm sure a few of you thought, well, clothes dryers are getting more efficient, and some of them don't require vents, and there's even heat pump based ones now. But this kind of proves the wider point I'm trying to make about how viewing these things as more advanced, and therefore the only way forward is just to make more efficient versions of the appliance, and trying to band aid all the problems with the technology and ignoring alternatives. But a more efficient clothes dryer is still using more energy than a clothesline. And when you talk about replacing these things, there's often a period of time before they pay off due to the extra emissions from producing the new efficient version. This is
Mm-hmm.
heavily inspired by this article from Low Tech Magazine titled
Mm-hmm.
Bedazzled by Energy Efficiency, which talks about the issues of clotheslines versus
I read it. It's boring.
dryers. In the article, they point out the EU calculated the benefits of more energy efficient dryers, but
Mm-hmm.
never considered an alternative.
You know?
It's not hard to see why. Two pieces of wood that you could get from a tree and a piece of wire that will basically last as long as any of us are alive.
Okay. Define piece of wood. Like I said, define piece of wood for me. Because not all pieces of wood are created equal. The thing is, you can have dry rot. You can have, termites that eat it. You can, like I said, this isn't me. Like I said, there's plenty of places in the U.S. that still have clotheslines that have, the metal clothesline tees, where they, where you can attach the, your polypropylene line, or yeah, your PVC line or whatever you want to call it, your plastic line that you put up so that you can dry clothes. It's like, okay, this is like I say, no one is banning that stuff. I don't get this art. I really don't get it. It's like, okay, you can do that. I don't even have anything against it, but it's like you're still going to have to spend time doing it. I mean, the whole idea is that, yeah, people are lazy. And the thing is that marketing did a hell of a job to promote washers and dryers so that they could make money. It's the same thing of why you change your car out every couple of years, right? Or air conditioners or whatever the case may be. This is something that people promote so that they can make money. It's the same thing with getting a new tractor or whatever the case may be. That's the whole idea of planned obsolescence and all that stuff. Okay, yeah. What are you going to do to change that? You're going to have to, like I said, this is why I promote balkanization. That when that happens, you're going to have to go back to these things. But of course, people like you don't like that idea. So, okay, continue.
Does not drive capital accumulation in the same way as getting everyone to buy a new energy-efficient dryer.
Yeah, I don't
The
disagree.
added thing of a more efficient appliance is going to take time to pay off. The extra emissions caused by building
Yeah.
and transporting the new ones to everybody's homes in the EU, which again is still going to have higher emissions than a clothesline.
Yeah.
This is the thing in general. I talked about this more in my video on websites and energy consumption, but all these increases in efficiencies tend to cause rebound effects that can pretty much eat up any gain from the more energy efficient appliance.
Yeah.
Maybe because the clothes dryer is more efficient now, people run it on a hotter setting or
Yeah.
use it more often, therefore
Okay.
negating the gains of it being more efficient. I really don't think our emissions can be fixed purely by gains in efficiency. And this is
No, I don't
something
e-
capitalists like to push because, well, capitalism is incapable of fundamentally solving these issues.
Yeah.
Our environmental
True.
damage is not purely emissions, but also waste and damage from extracting things from the earth, which a
True.
clothesline pretty much avoids all these issues. A wire can be attached to a tree or made from a branch of, say, something like Osage, orange, or red mulberry, both trees very commonly used for fence posts here in Kansas. The wire simply could be recycled.
Okay. So there's your bias right there. Okay. Yeah, you live in Kansas. Okay, so they made the joke. There's a girl who made a joke. You know what? I'm not even gonna bother. It was basically this Swedish girl who was like, we do things the traditional way or something in Sweden, and she was cutting ice and was dragging it up with these old bits and washing clothes in like a tundra situation and then hanging it up to dry. It's just like I don't know. It was a joke thing, but it's like, okay, yeah, I understand your point, but about all of that, yeah, with capitalism being inefficient but yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, Penty Cola talked about similar stuff like that. Not this specific issue, but I imagine, like I say, I'm not even against what this person is saying. I'm really not. Yeah, I mean, I have a washer and dryer just in there. I mean, I wash the dishes by hand because we don't the dishwasher that we had broke down, so we just do it the old-fashioned way. In that case, and the thing is, I wouldn't necessarily have anything against that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just too programmed by capitalism, I guess. Continue.
Metal or even made up of local plants as well. And it's probably even a net carbon sink given the carbon locked up in the wood. The use of plant materials makes you think it is a more primitive, but why? It's a renewable resource and when done properly, not damaging to the ecosystems to harvest.
Okay.
Simple does not mean worse or more primitive, or at least it really shouldn't. It often means less parts, which means less human labor required, less places for things to go wrong. It can also mean when something does go wrong, which is inevitable in anything, it can be fixed easily. To me, I tend to think
Yeah.
of things that are repairable and reliable as being better. I've tried to avoid thinking of things in being more advanced just because it has been invented more recently, or uses more electricity, or how
Yeah.
much computer nonsense is in it, or how shiny it is.
Yeah.
What I want to focus on is thinking of things in terms of fulfilling a need.
Mhm.
Any piece of given technology might have a niche where it makes more sense despite other disadvantages. So let's take a look at that with clothes dryers.
Okay.
Not everyone is capable of making use of a clothesline due to age, disability, or otherwise.
You know what I'm going to say? When are you going to bring up the washers? When are you going to bring up the washers? If you want to bitch and moan about the dryer, fine, I get it. With the inefficient sort of, electric heat that exists, the tumbler and all that sort of thing, I get it. I have a problem with the washer right now because of little bit of water and whatnot, and because there's a latch that if that latch isn't in, there's a safety where it's like beep, 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 and it's, it senses that the sensor or that the latch is not in, then the washer isn't going to work. So, okay, I understand what you're saying, but the thing is, yeah, please explain. Go ahead.
I'm not really arguing they shouldn't exist anymore, but to use an example, the issue is chasing energy efficient because you lock yourself into a linear understanding of technology, when all you're doing is making something rather wasteful slightly less wasteful and neglecting alternatives. And am I
Okay.
telling you to get rid of your dryers? Again, this is not a call for people to get rid of their dryers. Even if thousands of people watched this video and agreed with it, that would fundamentally accomplish nothing. Most of you don't
Okay.
even control what appliances you have in your house. I sure don't, let alone which ones get manufactured. My landlord knows that solar
Oops, sorry.
panels require, and they were going to replace it does go wrong.
So I live in my parents' house. Yeah, so that's the way we do it. I could do it the old-fashioned way and get a, find that I got plenty of stuff here, but I could just find something to maybe I could just drill holes in some metal and use that as a washboard. Yeah, I could do that, and I could make a clothesline easily enough. Yeah, like I say, I don't have any hatred or any sort of malice towards this video. I just feel like this is very limiting. It's also, like I say, you can't be against this part and say, oh my gosh, the transportation of this is so bad, but then you'll still use Amazon. So it's like you're trapped in the same system that I am.
Which is inevitable in anything. It can be fixed easily. To me, I tend
Yeah.
to think of things that are repairable and
Yeah.
reliable as being better. I've
Okay.
tried to avoid thinking of things in being more advanced just because it has been invented more recently, or
You know.
uses more electricity,
hmm
or how much computer nonsense is in it, or how shiny it is.
You know.
What I want to focus on is thinking of things in terms of fulfilling a need.
Mm.
Any piece of given technology might have a niche where it makes more sense despite other disadvantages. So let's take a look at that with clothes dryers. Not everyone is capable of making use of a clothesline due to age, disability, or otherwise. I'm not really arguing they shouldn't exist anymore, but to use an example, the issue is chasing energy efficient because you lock yourself into a linear understanding of technology, when all you're
Okay.
doing is making something rather wasteful slightly less wasteful and neglecting alternatives.
Okay.
And am I telling you to get rid of your dryers? Again, this is not a call for people to get rid of their dryers. Even if
I
thousands of people watch this video.
I didn't think you were. I didn't think you were telling me to get rid of my dryer. You're just talking about the inefficiencies of it. Yeah, I understand what your point is, but you didn't talk about the washers. I'm gonna keep bringing that up.
Agreed with it, that would fundamentally accomplish nothing. Most of you don't even control what appliances you have in your house. I sure don't, let alone which ones get manufactured.
Uh-huh.
My landlord chooses my appliances. I
Hmm.
can't even put up a clothesline as the HOA and the landlord say I can't. And in some areas, local codes from the city say you can't.
Hmm.
Fundamentally, these issues cannot be solved at an individual level. But what I want you to start doing is start evaluating technology as tools and not get locked into chasing band-aid solutions to problems given technology introduced. I can't say what everybody should do as far as what trade-offs should be considered.
Like I say, I don't disagree with this point. I do not disagree with it at all. To see technology as a tool to help you instead of being controlled by it. Yeah, I get it. It's the same thing with phones or whatever the case may be. I do understand that. I still have a 93 Ford Ranger. It works good enough for me. Yeah, it gets overheated, this and that, but overall, she works out good for me. It's not really a big thing. It's like, yeah, it gets hot, but I can just roll down the windows. It's one of my parents is still pushing for, why don't you get an AC, this and that in your vehicle? It's like, I don't give a shit. And the thing is, really, it puts more strain on the motor and everything else. So it's like, why don't I just leave it out? My parents are still gonna be pushing for it, but overall, I think who cares? The same thing with the door. Anyway, that's probably more me being lazy than anything else. But oh well. That's also an aspect of laziness is that you just don't want to fix stuff. It's just like, well, I'd rather just do it that way. Yeah. That's the reason why you can just put your clothesline out instead of worrying about you can just go out there and hang it or whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
More important with technology. I really think we should start valuing climate damage a lot more when setting up use cases and considering what technology fits it.
Mm.
Right now, though, I don't make these choices, and no one who
Yeah.
listens to this makes these choices
Mm.
because we live in a
True.
dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, and the ruling class is who makes these choices fundamentally.
Mm.
And this is why I think what technology trade-offs will change without a ruling class or a state. I honestly think a lot of the technology we use might end up looking more primitive to someone living under capitalism.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we will value things that damage the environment less and require less work to maintain.
Yeah. And that's why I push for balkanization. Yeah. That's why I push for once this United States breaks up, then you're not going to have the infrastructure or the connected highways and whatnot to go across, the country to travel, from Maytag or whatever the case may be, right? Then you will have a local a localized system.
Now, I know this is a little bit of an odd video compared to my others, but expect to see a little bit more content along this line in the future. My primary stuff will never stop being history, but I also think about the Marxist leaning left. There's a tendency to dismiss and ignore conversations about this topic, often labeling it anarcho-primitivist or something. And this is generally an area where I think anarchists do better, at least discussing these issues, more so than the Marxist left does. And so I'm hoping to produce some discussions on that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope you like this video. If you do want to see more, I guess, climate change or technology-focused videos, let me know. Like I said,
why didn't you talk about the washer? I'm gonna keep bringing it up. Why didn't you mention the washer? If you're gonna get rid of the dryer, fine, but why keep the washer? I don't. This is, like I say, this is a huge problem. It's like, okay, it's like saying, I'm trying to think of a comparison here of one thing that does the other. It's like, okay, you're gonna get rid of the washer, okay, or get rid of the dryer. I'm still thinking about it because it still upsets me. Like, okay, you hate dryers, okay, I get it. You should feel the same way about the washer, okay. It's like, okay, if you're gonna get rid of cars, okay, good, then make cities smaller so that people can walk there. I'm struggling to understand this type of thing where it's just like, okay, you can go ahead and say that, yeah, the car lobbies or whatever pushed for the creation of vehicles, so people had to make big, so city planners had to build bigger cities. Okay, I get it. It all revolves around what are you going to do to promote a revolution? That's what it comes down to. Let's finish this up.
I'm never going to stop doing the history thing. That's always going to be the primary content, but sometimes I feel compelled to make videos on these topics. I enjoy them. And the next one on this sort of topic is probably going to be sort of about the bushes I've been planting at my house because I finally got permission from my landlord. Because I didn't realize it at the time, but they're a Soviet-produced hybrid plant. And I kind of want to talk about their history of development within the USSR.
Yeah, good enough.
So it's going to be a weird combination between, environmental topic and Soviet history, which might be pretty neat.
All right, good enough. Okay. Honestly, I'm not even that bothered by what this person said. I'm really not. The thing is, though, is you leave out the plain obvious, which is the washer. I should, I'm just going to call this, yeah. Why communism? Yeah, why you can't have a dryer under communism, but a washer is perfectly okay. There we go. That's a long title, but why not? Because holy crap. There we go. It still upsets me. It's like, so, I mean, do you wash your clothes on a washboard? Is that what you did back in Kansas? I don't think you did. Like I say, and then it's like, I get it. I do. But it's like, I don't know. This is the whole thing of, okay, I understand that you don't want to sound like an Anprim. I get it. But it's like, are you going to do that on a mass? I don't know. You know what? I don't even have that many arguments against it. I am just wasting time at this point. I hope y'all enjoyed this. See you later, and goodbye.